The sun is not out enough. It's like it's trying, but it's not out enough. So yes, you never know. Sometimes your day gets drifted around, or like like this other person I know, she was hoping to do a call either today or Monday. Not sure if either will happen, but if not, then it wasn't meant to, and things can still be okay. But it's not just the weather, and the fact that in only an hour now we have a customer coming, but and I do want to have a quick lunch and probably should eat a bit more and I can still have coffee. But I just really quickly want to plug one of my recent videos that was very powerful for me and hopefully you might find it so as well. And I don't remember how long it was, but it was maybe not an hour. Um, Basically, the other reason, and I don't want to let in too much into this with him, but the other reason that I'm not going to go get my bike tuned up now, and part of me also would rather save it for later this week, is because physically I'm not feeling great and I can only do what I can, and I'll find out more Wednesday, I guess. But my one of my loved ones is an angel now. Visited me in that video. It's called Spirit Hero, and really moved me and made me feel. Um, hey, Glenn, now that you've played a bit of piano, if you haven't realized, I would like to have you up here, not a musical one necessarily, but I'd like to have you up here for about 15 or 20 minutes joining me, and then I'll probably wrap up, and then we can have some pizza stuff. And when you come, can you bring my socks there by the piano, please? By the piano / shelf. Thank you. And we'll see what I'm saying as he gets up here. In the meantime, I'm going to use this as a footrest. Give my legs a bit of a stretch. I don't know if I've been sitting like this whole time or not. You'd think I'd know, but I don't. Oops, I accidentally put reactions there. So, I meant to say I managed to get the title in all 100 characters, but I meant to put part 2. So, and both forgot and didn't have the room because it was like 98 characters. Even if I put PT2, it wouldn't have fit. It was just wasn't so ready. But so while we're waiting for him to come up here, I guess we're on the beat titles. I want to say formerly Franz Bob. I don't know. I feel like there's definitely some, but it's not. They're not coming to mind. Place, and I do. I want to try and keep this going rapid, and I'm thinking initially, in any way, they're not coming to mind. I did hear a name of a somewhat famous person. I think he's probably long passed away, or might and he was famous in a semi-unique kind of way. And I heard the name recently, and I used to like his show. He did not make a carpenter out of me, I can tell you that much. Not even hardly at all, really. But under the B, and I was just mentioning, well, that could be one actually. Well, Bob Vila. So he was like a home renovations guy. But even though I know it's heavy in sports, there's another Bob, my uncle, just kidding, that was in my blended family. And always nice whenever I was around him, and his wife too. But I would say the real impact came when I feel like they got to know and see me a little bit more in some ways. No, let me rephrase that. They got to know something about me that's important to me, I find, and not just me, but someone else who's important to me. And as much as I think that with this particular example, and I'm not going to say what, so don't assume. I think that people should acknowledge it, be willing to, I guess, talk about it, but yeah, otherwise, not necessarily treat someone differently, unless they want to be. But thank you. Um, and but and I'm sure there's maybe a few examples in that area that aren't coming to mind right now. But and that's fine. So the I don't know if have you gathered what the theme of this is. You might want to.
No, I haven't.
Okay. Basically, it's about, and we don't have to talk about each other because that's obvious and would be too much to talk about. Well, in front of the webcam would be great. I will be the invisible voice.
No.
But basically, just the idea of, and maybe I should have watched another video with you that inspired it, but and the one was very broad, but nice until they were in a park and there was some beeping vehicle that kind of made things distracting. But she was actually working on a book about this. Basically, so in doing this, there's different ways that you can approach this. I'll let you choose, and we'll go from there. So people that either we've had a negative or positive impact on us in life, or neutral. They can be people we were familiar with, a stranger, a famous person. What comes to mind? And also, I was in my head trying to kind of, be a bit systematic, where I was kind of working through the alphabet. And I haven't gotten very far with it, but so if that makes it easier to think of somebody.
Well, isn't that a pretty picture? I say OCD. No, not
OCD.
ADHD.
And then OCD.
ADHD.
And then OCD about it.
Yeah, that's right.
Which, I mean, that was one I kind of alluded to, the leader of a pack,
well, in terms of, here it is. Somebody that I didn't know very well.
That was kind of the initial inspiration, is like strangers that,
a not quite stranger who had a big impact on, who probably had a big impact, or had what was probably a big
still
impact.
Does. Wow.
Well, still does, definitely.
Okay.
In my first year or two, I think it was the first year of university, I had a part-time job demonstrating Yamaha port, and you've heard this story, but you've heard it, but he's forgotten it. They all forget my stories, and that's good, because that means.
And if I do wander off, I'll watch us back in here. They don't have to be just in the other room. But go on.
Yeah, that means I could tell it again. Anyway, sure. So I was demonstrating a type of musical keyboard called the Yamaha Portasound.
We no longer have a keyboard here.
Was it? I think it was the Bay. Was in the Bay. And this was in Garden City, which had the Bay, had a bunch of smaller things, and all the way across, I think it wasn't Eaton's, it was Sears or something, but there was another big chain department store on the other side of Garden City. And at that time, there was also somebody demonstrating Yamaha Portasound keyboards there, and their name was Glenn. And so, yes, that's a bit of a synchronicity.
People with our names, that's a good one.
We'd gotten to know each other a little bit because we were doing the same sort of job. We weren't terribly feeling competitive with each other or anything like that. So we'd get together for coffee occasionally and one of the little restaurants in the mall. And so at that time, as I said, I was in university, and because I was, and still am, so far as goes, interested very much in science when I was in high school, it was more or less encouraged strongly that I should try to get into medicine because I love music. And my father's rationale was that become a doctor, make lots of money, retire early, play music because, of course, making a living at music was not considered a valid option, or for that matter, being an artist, was another of my interests. Because yeah, even though I had and have a strong interest in science, it's music which really, I feel, I guess you could say, I self-identify as a musician.
Hey now.
What's wrong with that?
Well, you're trying to sound like something else.
Well, it's
And we don't have to.
it's so far as what I'm not quite sure you're trying to say. Okay, that wasn't meant to be controversial. It's if I have anything that's my religion or my spirituality, it's usually something that music it brings me closest to, as opposed to other things, which sometimes do, but it's more often music, which.
And I like that theme actually because, well, it might to think about people might help open up musical opportunities, big or small. In fact, we are soon going to be having someone here who we've not met yet, just had a phone call with, who's musical, and one of her main instruments is actually also one of his. So even though I'm a bit low energy today, it'll be interesting to see kind of what transpires from that. And somebody just tuned in, so you can see him in a flute, playing the flute and drum, and in a video just the other day there. But so do we want to spend a little bit more
if
time?
If we're not careful here, we'll not actually get to the point of my anecdote.
Oh, sorry.
Remember, the point of this
story.
There's
an anecdote.
the point of this story was some more or less stranger who had a big influence on your life.
Yeah.
And so, yes, to try to cut to it quick here, our viewer's gone, and there's no point in me continuing.
No, continue.
I'd be a nihilist.
Or catch half the story.
What would be the point of being a nihilist? Any case, for sure.
What's a nihilist?
A nihilist is a person who says that there's no point to anything.
Oh, so I should know that. I'm just
kidding. Nihilist, just what's the point of being a nihilist? Really, there is no point. Yeah.
Are you in denial about being a nihilist?
So in any case, yes, I'd applied to the reserve officer. In addition to my being encouraged to, since I was encouraged to become a doctor, that meant I didn't go into arts. I went into science, and because here, I don't know how similar it is elsewhere. In order to get into pre-med into medicine, you had to have a certain number of science courses and a sort of an arts option, but mostly science. And so I took the pre-med requisites and was hoping to get into pre-med. But I also was hoping to get into the reserve officer training program, which was a thing offered by the Canadian government, where basically they pay for you to go to university and you become an officer in the Canadian Armed Forces when you graduate. And so I'd applied to that, and I was accepted as for a double degree in physics and math. I actually did have the highest physics mark in my graduating class. Not the highest mark. This nasty little grade 11-year-old had the highest mark in physics. He was in our class. But in any case, yes. So when I got accepted for this reserve officer training program, I was very excited and talked to this person named Glenn, who demonstrated force out at Garden City. And he said, well, I had a relative, friend, whatever, I forget what the relationship was, who went into that, and they really regretted it afterwards. And so I started having second thoughts. And I ended up turning them down, which caused a big kerfuffle that was mostly hidden from me, with my father being very unhappy that I wasn't, because my father was a World War II veteran and was very much in support of me going into the military. In fact, we'd been in Sea Cadets when we were in high school, which I don't regret. And so there you have it.
Now that reminds me.
Well,
you could just go in so many different directions.
I'm just about to try wrapping it up.
Go ahead.
Jeez. So yeah. This is a person who had a big influence on my life, because if I had gone into the armed forces, I would have sent my life down a totally different channel. At that time, I was unaware, for example, that I was gay. and the forces were not did not allow openly homosexual people at that time.
And you're open and honest.
Well, you want to say why this was a big,
Okay.
okay, just to go any further with it, I'm actually veering from the difference it made in my life path into sort of reasons why I think it was probably the best thing that I didn't go into the military. But I'd be in a totally different situation now. I would have probably, for example, a double degree in physics and math. I had a really great physics and math professor, which is more, why I had
the art of prayer.
the art of stretching my fingers and my joints. It may look like prayer, but it may look as if I'm trying to block.
It may look as if something else now, but anyway.
So there you have it. Stranger, big influence.
Did you have any? Hey, that would have scared people and me. Just keep your back straight because musical.
Imagine
played the
string.
Did Dragon Boats. I don't know. It was just very nice. I actually named her daughter after Joni Mitchell. On both sides. Sorry. But so that's kind of one. Chiropractors. Yeah.
I wanted to call the bike shop and find out what the deal is.
What kind of deal?
Whether or not I need to book an appointment and all that fun stuff.
Well, it's the most recently dialed number on the landline, I believe.
Yeah.
So that's easier than opening up a tab and blah, blah, blah.
Not.
It is.
It is not.
It is. But it's Yicky out, and I want to have. Well, I guess you have 2 hours before the.
I want to have. Okay, this is now veering into. This is not particularly. Sir, I want to go on to something else. He apparently wants to keep on podcast.
It is a long weekend, so we could try this topic a bit more later. I might want to try and think of one more person, and see if within that time anybody tunes in, and then it'd be hard to pull myself away, perhaps. But I do want to do that. But yeah, the time was going faster than slower than I thought it was. So she's coming at 1.
That's right.
Okay, so as long as I should eat a bit more and have coffee before noon though. And hey, what are you doing?
Well, this is just, as I say, where I say this isn't entertainment. This is watching some guys talking about their plans for the afternoon.
Well, I'm trying to decide. Just trying to figure out if we can keep rolling or not. I'm going to roll for another 15 minutes. It'd be great. Maybe you could wait until noon if you have to bring it in. Hopefully, you wouldn't be there very long.
At this point, I just want to find out. And like I said, do I need to make an appointment? Okay. If I don't need to make an appointment, then I can just go there sometime today. If you're hoity-toity and saying,
you have to have a 3-week appointment because we want you to check out if there's any competitors.
I don't know what that is, but anyway. But possibly do mine later. But we do want to do this thing. Okay, you go. You're leading in my view, and we have somebody just tuned in. So
hello, welcome to the show.
There you go. Which is the other reason why I might not go very long. But I'm also doing this for me. But so I guess do that. I'll be down the next 15 minutes, and we'll go from there.
Okay. It's 11 o'clock. Do you know where your karma is?
They give you the first letter and all that.
Yes. It's in the 12th house.
In the 12th house?
Where your karma is. I think it's in the 12th house. I'm not an astrologer, but I used to know several astrologers.
I don't know how this comes up, but...
Because I just said, it's 11 o'clock.
But that actually inspired me, so scaramouche.
That's good.
With another Chris
my coffee.
And a cross.
Yes. See the beautiful crosses on this ugly cup.
It's not. I was like that cup. Imagine if you did that, you spilled coffee on the computer.
That would be bad.
Ethan, I'll call her Cecile. Could be one for next time. But I'm going to go with the 2 that I just thought of. But then you might start binge watching that and never not come back to this channel anytime soon because they're somewhat media. They were on an episode of a show. 2 people I'm thinking of. And actually, one of them was a bit more famous than the other. Well, I didn't know but they certainly weren't celebrities. Although one was a radio host and an astrologer, and he was pretty famous. I don't know. I am feeling low energy. I actually am feeling like I do want to eat and have coffee soon and go from there. But as far as, we were trying to get an appointment to bring the bikes in sometime between 10 and 12 to get back, have bedtime before somebody's stopping by, that we don't really want to have to change those plans. And it's 11 now. So, and it's not the nicest out. But I like this idea and I want to do more with it. Maybe I'll keep this one short because then, well, hopefully either way, but people might come in and comment afterwards. Because I'm feeling like whether it should, whether it shouldn't, whether it actually does or not, is taking some energy. And it's nice because it's still a long weekend, so he's still going to be around for the next couple of days and the rest of this one. All we have is this one, though, for sure. And, there's always uncertainties. But, we've done a couple of podcasts, and hopefully we do a couple more over the long weekend. But it's taking up a level of brain power that I just don't feel like I have at the moment. I kind of feel that. The sun's actually trying to come out in its blue sky. So anyway, but yeah, based on the title, feel free to check this out. And in the previous one, I was alluding to, but not sure if I actually mentioned, if you're happening to need inspiration, if you don't readily think of one or more people, or I don't mind, I'd be curious, do I mind you have anybody? Or anything I've said makes you think of. The idea came from Soraya Morrissey, I think is her last name. Type Soraya, you might find it. She interviews people and random people in parks and stuff, and even she has some videos where she sits down and has tea with them or goes for walks with them or whatever. And very random, and it's a good way to not be lonely. I guess that's true. But then you probably meet all kinds of people. Do you stay in contact with them? I can't remember what her socials are like. But anyway, the point of the matter is that she has some videos, Strangers You Never Forget. I've seen that in the past, but this time it prompted videos. So here's that. Bye for now. And he's played piano already, so